Good afternoon and welcome to another Focus Friday. As always, brought to you by Mapex and Majestic. My name is John Harville, and it's just an honor to be working in the industry and talking to so many wonderful educators and judges and designers that we've done over this last 2 months of Focus Fridays. So if you've missed some of our episodes, go back and check them out on our Facebook page. We're putting out lots of marching content in the absence of the WGI, DCI, and DCA seasons. On Monday, Dave Natal put together a whole new Flam passages video showcasing Flam accents, Tachadas, Duchadas, all those things, the different energies, but he broke it down in such a way that makes it really easy to learn and drum along to. Of course, on Fridays, we're happy to always be joined by such wonderful educators, and that is very true today. Mr. Chris Romanowski is a DCI judge. He's the caption head of the Atlanta CV Drum and Bugle Corps, and just a wonderful educator down in Georgia, and we're just happy to have him here with us. So, Chris, how are you doing? Thanks for joining us.
I'm all right, man. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to a good conversation here today and touching some bases about DCA and all the good stuff that's going on between Mapex and my group and all my students. So excited to be here.
Let's get something off the plate right now, right up at the top. When was the last time you had a decent haircut by a professional? And what is the best kind of pizza? Settle this between you and Mike Lightsky.
Okay, well, Mike Lightsky's got his opinions, but, I just got a 6-pack of Giordano's in the mail today, so I'm going to have to roll with that. As far as the haircuts go, I don't know. Are you asking me that because you're not sure if it looks good or?
It's looking good. It's looking good.
Well, the story is, March 13th was our last drumline rehearsal at Hillgrove High School, and just talking to the kids and everything, I said, you know what? I'm not going to shave or cut my hair until I see you next. Not expecting that, we're going to be sitting here in the summer and it's still going on. So, if you see my profile picture or whatever, it's clean shaven, Romo. And then now it's to the point where I'm truly regretting that decision. About 4 or 5 weeks into this whole thing, I've got 2 kids, and we were looking for an art project. My daughter wanted to dye her hair purple, so they decided that my son and I were getting mohawks, and that we were going to dye them purple. So the purple's washed out, but still a little bit of that going on. It actually doesn't kind of stand up as well as it did before. But yeah, so to answer your question, the last real haircut was in March, but if you're talking truly professional, after tour 1992. When somebody thoroughly screwed up my haircut, and I decided to buy my own clippers and go for it from there on.
Right, the simple one. Yeah, my wife did a pretty good job, but it's been quite a while. We need to touch it up. And you speak about your daughters. You got beautiful children, and your wife just is a blue coat like me, and we missed each other by 1 year way back.
Yep.
Just way back when. So it's she's marched forever. I think she has 17 years on the field between DCA with her parents and then junior corps. And then she's most widely recognized as the Rochester Patriots color guard. There was a show that they had a fish at the end, and the person held up a fish, and that was her. So she's known as the fish girl at the end of the Patriots show. She gets recognized for that all the time. Yeah, she's awesome. Everything's great. So, well, let's have some fun and get into it a little bit. How did you come to be designer, judge, writer, adjudicator? How did it all begin way back with the young Chris?
Well, young Chris was going to be a baseball player, and then he got injured in high school and was already drumming. And I went to Plymouth Canton High School in Michigan, Plymouth Centennial Educational Park, sometimes it's called. It's a massive school, lots of students. I think there's over 7,000 students on that campus now. Looks like a mini college. Everybody has their own buildings. I had a great band program that was a heavily involved Bands of America band. I marched there for a couple years. Then I ended up teaching there for 4 years. And, we were fortunate enough to have a lot of a homegrown team, but then some missing pieces that came in and really dialed that in we were able to win 2 Bands of America national championships during that time. But,
Yeah.
from there, it was just like you caught the bug. Like, this is fun, just being around. We always had a big drum line, I mean, there were years we had 10 snares, 5, 6 quads, 5 bass drums. And I mean, it was just the battery was huge. So
it was a yellow band, right? Yellow band.
Yeah.
And you guys had the white premieres with the black hardware.
We did.
Is that remember? Y'all, you guys
Yeah.
were, when I was in high school, that was it, like, oh my gosh, they are up there all the time.
We had so much fun. It was just, it was started with Chris Johnson and Jerry Hotchkin were my instructors, and my friend Ben Wharton, who I marched with, then started teaching. And then after I graduated, I started teaching, and it was just kind of like we kept passing the torch a little bit there. And once that happened, and I decided that music and baseball was over, music was going to be my life. I did a lot of drum set lessons. Studied with Dan Maslanka, who's a great percussionist in the Detroit area. First call for all the stuff at the theater, and jazz guy, and all around great percussionist. So I studied with him, and then I decided I was going to go to college for music. I spent a year at Central Michigan University in Robert Honer's percussion ensemble, and then I wanted to do drum corps. So and I was still involved with teaching Plymouth, so it was easier for me to go back to Eastern Michigan and kind of put all the things on my plate that I wanted to have. And so I went to Eastern Michigan University for 3 years, kind of like I don't want to say half-time, but wasn't a full schedule because I was really focusing on trying to get into drum corps and, get that experience. I ended up going to Dutch Boy from Canada, which is right across the border. I marched under Matt Savage and Jay Webb, so I'm sure those guys.
Not bad, not bad at all.
Pretty good dudes. So I got to march under them, and then Jay Webb actually on the last day of rehearsal came up to me and said, "Hey, what are you doing next summer?" I said, "I don't know, man. Probably barbecuing a lot when you guys come to town." And he said, "I think you need to teach, and I think you need to teach here." And so Jay Webb was really the one who got me into the drum corps thing. And as far as that goes, I spent the next summer with Dutch Boy on the road. And then I ended up teaching French drum corps, L'Insolite from Montreal, actually Saint Jerome, Quebec. And they were a Division II open class. That time it was Division II. Drum corps and all French. So here comes Romo from Michigan, hanging out, trying to teach in a different language, and I think we taught each other a lot of good things that summer, drumming wise and socially. So so I spent the summer with them. Right about that point, my parents, I was playing a ton of drum sets, so my parents, especially my mom, who would do anything for me, really kind of made it happen so that I decided, she kind of pushed me in that direction. Things started showing up. You got to go to Berklee College of Music. So I went to Berklee College of Music in Boston. And then since I wasn't teaching that first summer, I decided to do my trial judging. And I did my trial judging that summer just to stay involved because I just love the activity. And even though I wanted to be a rock star at that point, I still loved drum corps and wanted to be part of that. So that happened. And I made some friends from Japan while I was there. And they said, "Hey, we know you're a drum corps guy, and how would you like to, teach our group that's coming on tour for part of the summer next year?" So that turned into that, and I taught Baymax, which was a small corps, but man, tons of energy. Those kids brought it every night. We had taiko drums all across the front sideline, and so that was my, kind of third language at that point. If you think about it, English and then French and then Japanese. So it was a great summer, and that led to being asked to teach to the Pride of Soka Royal Kilties in Hachioji, Japan. And I ended up doing that gig for 7 years. So after I left Berklee, I went to Los Angeles. I was going to be a rock star with all the friends that I've been playing with in Boston. And we were all going to go to LA and play together. Well, I ended up getting a teaching gig at Etowanda High School with Don Jaramillo. And they were a big Bands of America band. Don actually brought me in because he had heard of well, according to him, that they really kind of wanted to do BOA because of what they saw at Plymouth. So here I was coming into their backyard, and so he brought me in. So for 7 years, I taught Etiwanda High School, indoor and fall. I taught the group in Japan. I would go there twice a year. And then I ended up getting the gig with the Rochester Patriots in New York. So here I am in California, which went there to be a rock star. And I spent so much time on an airplane for 7 years. It was literally like I would get to the end of Etiwanda season. All right, I'll see you guys. And the next day, I'm like on a plane to Japan. And, I'm over there working with them, getting them to, Drum Corps Japan Championships in November. Actually it was late November, early December, yeah. And then I would come back after that, and we would start a couple weeks of indoor season with Etiwanda. And then the winter camps are starting off with the Patriots. So I would fly out for the Patriots gig in New York. I would teach the indoor line in California, and then I wouldn't have to go back until spring in Japan for auditions. So it let me do the whole, fall thing with the drum corps and the high school. And then it also allowed me to, once that season was over, jump in for a month back in Japan. So I would go, maybe a month, 2 months at a time and do that whole thing. So it was kind of a super crazy schedule. And then somewhere in the middle of all that, Bill Bachman and I had marched Dutch Boy together. And then we were roommates at Berkeley the whole time, well, a couple of years. And then he calls me and says, "Hey, I'm coming to LA." And so he moves in, we end up splitting a house, which then turned into the Heavy Hitter Pads headquarters, which is now, the Vic Firth Heavy Hitter Pads. So that's a whole nother thing that's going in a different direction. So yeah, California, man, was a great place to sit and be a catalyst for all kinds of things going in different directions. But, when some of that stuff started to change, in as far as like traveling to Japan and the drum corps scene there, I was looking to move. My wife Mary is a teacher, and she could teach anywhere. I could do anything I wanted anywhere. And after the Heavy Hitter Pad thing, after we signed the deal with Vic Firth for that, it was like, okay, I'm free to leave the world headquarters, which was our 2-car garage. And we chose Cobb County, Georgia. And because of the music support here, the incredible bands and educators here in Georgia, we just wanted to be a part of that energy. And so we're here, and, that led me to, more drum corps stuff, which got me to CV, which then in turn, introduced me to you guys, and here we are. So that's a long story, kind of condensed, super quick, kind of, but that's a lot of roads traveled.
Took a plethora of years and put it all there in a couple minutes. I guess you're still got those frequent flyer miles that will last for a while.
Yeah, there's a few, which is good. Unfortunately, not a good time to be using them, I guess. But
right, yeah, no time right now. So yeah, down there in Georgia, you are truly surrounded by so many great people down there, and we've gotten to know a lot of the guys down there, a lot of the Quest guys, and then now you're down there and just really killing it with Atlanta CV. Can you tell us a little bit about what life is like at Atlanta CV, and maybe tell us a little bit about the differences between a DCA and a DCI ensemble?
Well, it all kind of started for me, the DCA thing. I had spent a year with Magic of Orlando as a caption head, and then kind of backed away from that after a year. Just wasn't the right fit, I don't think. And so here I am at home, and I get a phone call about coming to, hey, we know you're not teaching this summer. Would you like to maybe consider judging for DCI? So I did that. And then the same thing happened with DCA. And so I actually had a little split second where I was a DCA judge, and I judged Atlanta CV and, all the groups for, I think, 2 years, which during that time in critique, ended up meeting a bunch of the people from CV. And going into the third year, I get a call from Alan Armstrong. Says, "Hey, we're putting together a percussion staff. Want to know if there's anybody you want to recommend." And so I sat there and we talked for a couple minutes, and then I paused and I said, "Is there a reason why you're not asking me to do it?" And he paused for a second. He laughed. He goes, "You want to do it?" And I said, "I would love to do it. You're in my backyard. This would be fun. I've never done the DCA thing. It's a new challenge. It'll be cool." So I think that was like 2012 now at this point. So the time is flying, isn't it? Yeah. So
No.
yeah. So 2012 took over as percussion caption head in Arranger. We had kind of a small staff. We came out like, full size drum line, pretty good size front ensemble. And we had some vets that returned that really kind of laid the foundation for transition with me coming in, that bought into the program and really helped over the next couple years kind of keep that thing moving as we're bringing in new people. I think one thing that people, speaking of DCA to DCI, that one of the major differences always used to be age group. People used to think of DCA as, well, those are the old guys, and the old girls from the color guard that used to do it, and they're just still living out the dream. And in some cases, there are situations like that. But for us over the last couple years, and I got to tell you, there was a period in those first couple years where we were in older age drum corps, and I'll tell you what, those people worked their tails off. Okay. And we owe a lot to them to, like I said, laying the groundwork to get us where we are. But over the last couple years, it's really kind of turned into a home for people who maybe they can't give away a whole summer. They've got to work, or they just cash is king. And you're looking at some of those touring fees, and like, I can do it for a fourth or a fifth of what's being asked there and still get the experience. We're seeing a lot of that too. So sure. Age wise, it's incredible, man. I mean, I think the average age of the battery last year might have been, like under 18. And, there's one snare drummer in there that kind of threw the age gap up a little bit, but
just one big average. He was 70.
Yeah, no. I think he was in his 30s. I think Matt was in his 30s, but we're seeing a lot of younger students, which is cool because it's the crazy part is all of this ties in together. DCI, WGI, DCA, kids are drumming nonstop. And they're looking for outlets to participate. And in some cases, DCI might not be the answer yet. Maybe they're only going to have the funds to be able to do that one or two times, or maybe not at all. And so they want to get that experience, but they also want to do indoor. So they've got to pay for indoor and figure out how to do that whole thing. But yeah, it's the age range of the drum corps is definitely in the upper teens, 17, 18, 19. We see a lot of college kids. We've got a lot of kids from Georgia and, down in Alabama and over here, JSU. A lot of our staff now is from JSU, which is super cool because they all either did the drum corps thing together or spent time at JSU. And, you can't say enough about that program. That's a quality program there. So, having those guys come in and do work at CV and share their knowledge and their passion for drumming is just freaking awesome. So,
right.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. Time and money. Nowadays, we're both short on both sometimes.
Yeah, for sure.
So now that Atlanta CV, am I right in saying that typically that schedule falls on rehearsals over the weekend? Is that typically
exactly
correct?
Yeah. So what's great about the DCA thing is that you're still pushing the envelope of what's possible. It's kind of on an indoor schedule, actually, maybe not even as tense as an indoor schedule because you see those groups that are rehearsing till 2 or 3 in the morning maybe, but we are 9 to 10 on a Saturday, and 9 to 5 on a Sunday. In June, we usually come in. Drumline will come in, and everybody that can get in from work, might do a little subsectional on Friday nights. But yeah, it's a weekend thing, and then you're back to like civilian life at 5:30 on Sunday. You know what I mean? Which is crazy. Like and not just for Atlanta CV, but for all the drum corps, in DCA that are out there doing the weekend thing. You've got people that are, all walks of life, all kinds of jobs, and all kinds of different age ranges, and something just clicks on Saturday morning or Friday night, and you're in drum corps mode, and it's a great outlet and a great release for people.
Great escape.
Yeah, absolutely. And we always try to tell them, look, I know you got a lot on your plate on Monday, or even maybe during the week, but right now, all I got to worry about is having fun, making great sounds, and just throwing down with all your friends. So enjoy the weekend, leave the stress elsewhere, and let's do some drum corps on the weekend. So it's pretty cool.
Yeah. It'll be there for you when you get back, all that stress.
Yeah, it'll be there. All right.
Well, so what does that involve? So now maybe you don't get to teach the way you did at the drum corps when you had all this time. Now with it condensed, what's that kind of rehearsal technique like? What's that attitude, the way that you and your staff go into it?
Well, you're looking at on Saturdays, we'll do a typical visual block in the morning. So the kids are straight into stretch block, visual block, all that stuff, getting their bodies moving. We then get into, that goes straight to lunch. And after lunch, we usually break into subsectionals. And depending on what's on our plate, it'll either be moving or not moving, depending on what time of year it is and what the weather's like. There's, in Georgia, you never know what you're going to get. It could be 110 or it could be, cane. So, we're dealing with that. But, it's usually subsectionals after lunch. And then we try to finish that the middle block up with percussion ensemble. That usually entails, like, we've set out the information, they've worked on stuff in subs, and then we come and meet with the front ensemble at the field so that they don't have to come again after dinner, because that's full ensemble. So they come on out, and then put together chunks of it, either arced up or moved with the drum majors usually, break away for dinner. And it's crazy because, we don't have a food truck. So it's not like DCI, like where you go to dinner and you just run over the food truck. And I know you Blue Coats people like to eat. So I know you got one of those trucks with like flavored Kool-Aids and stuff. Like, yeah.
I'll show you a picture of me later. I didn't do much eating way back in the day.
Yeah, so, food is on your own, and there's area restaurants and that sort of thing. We have had in the past some parents that have put together, like, hey, if you don't want to go eat and you eat on campus, that came in and cooked for us. The Beck family was really good at making some meals, and like the $5 sack lunch and all that stuff. So, but yeah, you go to dinner, then you come back and it's night block, and you're into back into a warm up, and then you're into full ensemble, and that's brass guard and drums on the field. And that's where we get a lot of work done right there. The sun's going down. You're no longer getting just beat by, hot Atlanta.
Georgia heat and Georgia humidity.
Oh yeah, worst.
Yeah. So I imagine that you guys really lean on those young men and women to really put in the work during the week. So we're not learning as much. The weekend is focused and precise and cleaning versus learning. So
yeah,
what's the weeks like in between?
Well, it's the motto there is you practice at home so we can rehearse at school. Right. So we try to make sure that we get them the information they need to be successful during the week, because we need to build off that on the weekend. So, technology like this, man, we've been using this for a long time, and everybody does it with their drum course, the video assignments, online lessons, just trying to help the individual while they're away. And it's a lot of extra work for the staff, but the staff guys are super dedicated. You always see them critiquing things, and helping them out. And then on top of that, you post the videos on our snare page, and the snare guys are talking, hey, you want to look at measure 13, left hand on count 3 or whatever, so it's really a team effort during the week, of trying to help each other be prepared, because you don't want to be that person come Saturday that's not prepared. Unfortunately, there's weeks that happen like that. I mean, life happens. It's not like you got on a tour bus in DCI and you're gone until August. Like, life happens during the week during a DCA group, and you got to learn how to deal with it.
Right. Right. And what are some of the accomplishments? Go ahead and brag on the group just a smidge if you can. What all has Atlanta CV done in recent?
Well, we've been very successful with membership. The drum corps, in 2012, in the year prior to that, we've just really built on the membership. So number one thing is the experience for the members, and we've built on that and made it so people want to come be part of Atlanta CV. So, I don't even want to. There's the competitive awards, but I think it all starts with people wanting to be part of it. And that's a huge accomplishment, to be able to turn that into a home where people know that, hey, I can come and we're going to be legit, and we're going to have fun, and we're going to learn, and maybe it's going to be a stepping stone into a DCI career. So that's the number one thing I think is probably one of the coolest things that's happened at CV. When you look and you're look at the groups during the summer at DCI, and you start seeing, like, that kid marched CV at that year, that kid marched that year, and they're everywhere. I mean, it's, so that's cool. Now, competitively, it's, we've had a couple years now, 3 or 4 years, knocking on the door, second place in DCA. The Buccaneers have a track record that goes on for decades of people trying to knock off the top, and, we're knocking as loud as we can. So, and we're going to knock even louder next year. So, percussion wise, we've had some just stellar groups. I mean, the front ensemble has been one of our strengths for years. Bobby Crosby was in charge of the front ensemble during those times, and just did incredible work with them. The battery section, we tend to have a little bit more turnover in the battery section. Those kids are, going on to do some other things, but it's become super consistent. And I think last year, we ended up second in percussion last year. I think we ended up second the year before. Maybe the last 3 years we've been second, third, second, something like that. We had some rule changes last year where they double paneled for the first time. One judge had us first in percussion, one had us second in both prelims and finals, just averaged out. That average comes in, and you just wish the average on the other side had been, it was close. So we're doing what we can, man. The number one priority is that we want people to stand up and scream, and we want people to be talking about Atlanta CV as we head into the stadium, and we want to make them stand before the show's over. So if we can do that, that's our number one priority. If the numbers fall in line for us, of course, we're going to be happy. At the end of the night, in any competition, there's only one group that's ever going to be the happiest. But
right.
From a performance standpoint, we're just looking to be better. We have that talk even between prelims and finals. Like, those prelims runs are tough sometimes because for us, we're a DCA group from the South, which means a 20-hour bus ride. Everybody else is 3 hours from home or less in most cases. So, it's a legit travel experience when we have to get on the bus. We're always loading up the bus and saying, this is a business trip, and we got to handle our business. So we do the best we can, which usually we've had a couple years where that prelims run maybe wasn't the best that it could have been, and everybody knew it. But then come the next day to finals, we got the bus legs out and the bus heads out, and we are, we've been a different drum corps. But it's it's kind of like indoor in that sense too. Like, night to night, anything can happen with any of these groups. And with DCI, the same thing. I think there's a little bit more consistency in the DCI game than there is in the DCA game, just based on the fact that, you've put in the legwork, you've put in the miles every single day on a DCI tour, and DCA is just a little bit of a different animal. So the consistency isn't always as consistent as a DCI group. But I mean, if you look at top bottom in DCA, what's happened even in just the last 5 years, people are playing legit stuff, taking legit risks,
sure.
and, and it's just really because kids are heavily involved in performing in a lot of places, and it's showing up in DCA. And one thing that we've tried to change at DCA, especially Atlanta CV, is we've been on the front edge of trying to get, like, there was a period of time where there were no electronics in DCA, and there were certain things that you couldn't do in DCA that you do in DCI. And, you have those rules congresses to change things. And, I think one of the biggest things that we always talk about at Atlanta CV is we want our students to feel like they're getting that quality DCI experience. Some of them are coming from DCI to march with us, and some of them have hopes to going to DCI. So we want them to know how to use the electronics. We want them to know all that whole game, you know what I mean? And so it was real important for us to get some of those rules passed, and that's something we're really proud of, and still working on every year, trying to get it as up to date as possible for our students, so they're getting that full experience.
Yeah. And you guys have done a really terrific job. I encourage everybody to go just check out some warm up vids and some show vids on YouTube. You'd be hard pressed to, and when you understand kind of as you're talking about, you got one group in DCI that are constantly, they get there and that's life until for 2 months, and then you got this group that they're living two lives. There's the business and during the week, and then turning it on the weekend. So I think, given what you said and understanding that, it's really you could really appreciate it for a little more for what it is. Now, you also talked about the judging panel, and you yourself are a DCI judge. Can we get into a little bit of understanding what that's like?
Sure.
Mike Lightsky told us a little bit about it, and I want to ask just right off the bat: has anybody ever chased you down?
Has anybody ever chased me down? There's I don't know that I've ever really been chased down, but I've had a lot of good warnings. There's I remember one time I was out with, I think it was Spirit. It was Spirit, because it was there was a girl in the color guard that my wife had taught at our high school, and they had a transition where the guard was going to come across the open part of the field where I was at. I just heard, "Excuse me, Romo." So there's been a couple polite moments like that. I don't think that anybody's ever really chased me down. I've seen some eyes looking at me, for the most part, I think everybody's pretty cordial out there. At least they have been with me. Maybe it's because I'm all sweaty and huffing and puffing. They feel bad for me, but I don't know.
Well, how do you prepare? I asked Mike a few weeks ago, and he told me about the preseason and all that stuff, and learning the shows and things. Do you take that same approach so you can?
Yeah, I mean, it's the preparation is probably the most important part of the summer, the pre-prep. The cores are asked to send out information about their show, so I usually download all that, print it up, put it in a folder so it goes with me to every show. So if I'm seeing 6 groups this night, I have their show title, what their show's supposed to be, what it is I'm supposed to see, information, about what I'm going to experience. And as far as if I'm in the box or on the field, if I'm on the field, I generally do a roadmap. So, in years past, we had clearance for the entire field. So having a roadmap of where it's safe to get in and out, and, knowing your location is important to not only your safety, but the safety of the members of the field. So there's a lot of attention paid to that detail of knowing where you should go out safely, and, never take a risk that's put somebody in danger. But so, there's the road mapping system. And generally I have it on a notebook or in my notes on my phone, and I'll go over that. Even between a group, I might go on my phone and say, okay, so-and-so's coming out. Let's see. Okay, in the opener, I can get 2 reads on the battery here, but I got to be back by like 2:10 to get to the front. You know what I mean? I've got to be able to get out of that massive drill form that's coming and be safe. So, you start to catch some videos. I start to actually, one of the things I do is, and I won't even do it on the videos of the groups of the year. When I'm road mapping, I generally shut the volume down either really low or off, and I just watch and try to figure out where those entrance points are. But what I'll do to practice my sheet is I'll go back and I'll take any show from like 2 years, 3 years, 5 years ago, and I'll put it up on my big screen TV, and I'll sit there with my recorder, and I will just talk, and I will talk it through like I'm judging a show, because I want my brain to be in that mode. I don't want to be coming cold off the street. The kids deserve good information. The staff deserves the information I can give them. And if that means, I got to practice like they got to practice. And
good point.
I wouldn't expect them to show up not having drummed in 2 or 3 days and say, all right, here's the show. So I want to have my mind set on the way I want to speak. And as a judge, I try to speak as clearly and efficiently as I can without using too many big words, so to speak. You know what I mean? I'm a drum guy, a musician. There's certain ways I like to say things and talk about things, and I try to be relatable in the words that I choose. So yeah, there's a lot of preseason practice that goes in, including the road mapping and practicing just talking.
Yeah, we were talking about that here in the office just the other day of in terms of education or teaching, how you can either take an approach and seem very heady, and all the kids could say, "Oh man, wow, he's on it," or you could do something that's relatable and produce the results. And I imagine that being able to digest that information from you after that night, maybe they get to listen to it on the bus. It needs to be quick, because it's a quick it's a quick thing.
Well, there's a whole post night thing too. Like if it's an early night, I'll go back and I'll sit in my hotel and I'll listen to my tapes, find out what I missed. If I missed an opportunity to listen to something, to get in and check it out, I try to find that and make note of it. Like, okay, even in critique, if somebody's saying, hey, we really like you to check out the back half of this movement on the field, I might make note of that and go, back to my tape and see where I was and why, and try to, make sure that I'm getting them things that can help them, because the ultimate goal is to get them to the finish line with as much information that we can from our side. We're on their team. We want them all to be great. We're not there to tell them, well, we are there to tell them what they're not doing well, because we want them to do well. You know what I mean?
Right.
So sometimes I think that can get a little sideways on you, but we're all fans of drum corps. We're all fans of every group, and on any given night, anything can happen, and it has. And sometimes you're like, wow, that just happened, and I'm writing that number down, and I'm like, that's cool. Those kids brought it tonight, and they deserve to be bumped up here. You know what I mean? And
yep.
It's any given night, man. I think that's the coolest thing about drum corps, is what you see out there.
Can you speak a little bit to the rule change of last year, of the residing more towards the front sideline, and maybe a little bit how that affected the judge community, and in turn, how does that affect the chorus show design, percussion design? Did you pick up any differences of how ensembles wrote from one year when you could be way in the back to when you can only be kind of up in the front?
Yeah, it was different. You know what I mean? It's really different. It made road mapping a lot easier, knowing that you only had so many feet to get on the field. But from a show design standpoint, I think we can all agree we saw a lot more of the percussion moments happening closer to the front of the field. Without the bodies and the props and things being between you. So, in if you're talking drum corps history, you go back to the old '60s, '70s, '80s drum corps drum solos. That stuff always happened up front. So in a way, it's like the new, 2019, since it's the last one we saw, the new 2019 version of what we used to see, where the drum lines came up front. But they're even taking incredible risks with that, because you're seeing stuff where they might be coming up front, but they're down on the 20-yard line, and so the ensemble guys are having to listen to how is that meshing and communicating, while you might still be checking out segmentally either the battery or the pit. So it's interesting from a design standpoint. I think everyone's still trying to kind of figure it out to some extent, how to best present it. But man, transitionally to saying that this is where the judge is going to be, and people taking those new risks of moving it that way, I was pretty phenomenal. I thought there were a lot of great performances out there on the field, down on the field level. I think one of the things we noticed a little bit is that, all of a sudden, and this was in just about every group, the use of the drum major has become an important aspect of how things roll. It's no longer just show us the drum. You can't just conduct to the drum line feed all the time. And maybe the drum major is, you hear stuff like, I won't mention names, but there was a group that came in and said, okay, so here's what's going on. Drum major's conducting the feet, but the front ensemble over here is like, they're dudding like an eighth note ahead, and then the horns on this side of the field are actually anticipating this on like the and so we've got three different things that are connected to the drum major, but none of them are 100% with the hand. So there's a lot of effort going on trying to figure out that math equation for how sound travels. And man, when you see it, it's just some of them make it look so effortless. It's like, how did you do that? Like, how did that snare thing line up all the way over there on the 10-yard line with the front ensemble, So yeah, it's from a percussion standpoint, I think it's because everybody loves to see that stuff up close and personal and feel that energy and air move towards you. And from a music analysis standpoint upstairs, it's just cool because you're hearing drum corps in a different way. You're not hearing it the way we've heard it the last 10 years. You're seeing different varieties of field placement that are bringing things in and out of the musical picture. And I think it's cool. Do I love being on the field with the kids? Absolutely. There's nothing better when they're cranking, man, and people are yelling at you, don't go up front, you need to stay here. You get that all the time. Like, get to the quads, like kids yelling at you, and you start to get involved with it. And I've got tapes where we're yelling back and forth at each other and hyping each other up, and it's great. That's amazing. We're still getting to experience that to an extent. It's a new game. It's a new sound. And I think as people are figuring out, it's only going to get better and more creative. And geez, I can't even imagine what that's going to be, because it was just amazing what they did with it last year. So I look forward to this, 2021 when we see with that year off where, hey, maybe we dial this in, do this and try it a little differently and see what they're coming up with, because there are just some massively creative people on these staffs these days that are just, I mean, did you ever think you'd see the kind of things we're seeing and being pulled off by, just that big of a group in that kind of listening environment? It's unbelievable.
Yeah. I know that, Glenn Crosby talked about this. He's like, people can say, well, they're doing this and that isn't the way that I couldn't do. I couldn't do any of the stuff that they're doing now. And the stuff that they do while they drum, and we used to do well to kind of hit our dots, but
yeah,
now try to hit your dots and also this choreographed thing that isn't even in time and it's alternate, and it's all really cool. And one of the things that I hope that everybody understands about drum corps and the evolution of it is that it may not be the way that it was when you did it, but the love of it inside is what is our through line, and that's what we should really kind of, those kids are out there, they're having the
Oh,
great
yeah,
time, they're killing it, and that's the point.
absolutely. And I would go as far as to say this because as a judge, um, I'm having to figure things out and try to get inside their brains and their bodies and figure out like how does that feel to perform that, you know what I mean? um, and yeah, I'm not afraid to tell this story, but there was a drum corps that did an indoor show where they put their groups upside down, like they had players upside down. Well, that also transferred to the outdoor arena. Cavaliers did that, and they had their quad players hanging off people. And I literally, I mean, I remember it was one of the first times I saw it. I'm going to go home and try that. So I went home and I tried the upside down quad thing, and I'm not ashamed to say that it didn't go well for me. And it's just crazy. Like kids today are amazing. They're doing amazing things, and they keep trying new things and adding different layers. And every time you think you've seen it can't get any crazier, then you start to see the evolution of like the guys from BYOS, where some of those stick tricks, like, dude, how many times have I had to bend over to pick the stick up off the ground when I'm trying to do that thing Harvey does where he bounces it and he goes in slow motion, turns around and catches it? Like, it doesn't happen for me, like I've tried it a million times.
For sure. And now with their tricks of the trade video, maybe you'll get a little bit better.
I'm gonna tune in. I'm gonna
Yeah.
I'm gonna make it happen.
Yeah. Well, so tell me as we kind of approach the end. Tell me a little bit about the career that you've carved out down there as an educator, in the hired by the school system per se.
Well, for me, it's I think if you look in terms of how it's going around the country, I think Texas has a great setup where they're having, people come in and teach, and you're like the lesson person or the drumline person and the ensemble person, or you're that person that does all that stuff. Our director that started the program here, Chris Farrell, who's now in charge of Cobb County Music. When he opened up Hillgrove as a brand new school, he came from Texas and LD Bell, and he wanted to make sure that I was going to be in on classes. And then Joe Heiberger, who's the middle school director, was the feeder for LD Bell, is also the feeder for our high school here now. So they started bringing me into the middle school. So it was nice because I was having that first contact with the percussionists from the beginning, and seeing them through middle school, getting them into the high school. I also teach at one other middle school in the area, and we get not a lot of percussionists from that school just because of the way the line is divided in the district. But we occasionally get some. But between that middle school, the high school, CV, my lessons, and the other middle school, I see almost 200 percussionists a week. So it's awesome. Your entire life you're told if you can find something that you can survive, you can have a family, you can own a house, you can do all these things, and you don't feel like you have a job, then it's a pretty special thing. And it's of course there's stress because you want people to be great, and you want things to happen a certain way, and you want kids to be as excited about it as you are. But yeah, I get to teach drums for a living, man, and that's awesome. And then outside of that, I get asked to do clinics, and then judging indoor and judging fall, judging DCI. I got to judge the Drum Corps Japan championships in November this past year in Yokohama, and then of course the heavy hitter pad thing. So we started heavy hitter pads just because Bill had a quad pad idea, and he actually shopped it to a lot of people, and nobody really wanted to run with it. So that started with him and I running into each other in the house. I said, "What is that?" And He said, "Oh, it's my quad pad." And I said, "Well, we need to make that. My kids need that." So that became, we became carpenters for like 2 years while we put the heavy hitter pad thing together. But I think what it boils down to is I have many irons in the fire. So I've got the middle school thing, I've got the lesson thing, I've got heavy hitter pad thing, the drum corps thing, the judging. So I'm constantly juggling, but it's all fun. It's like I can't wait to do the next thing. And then today I know I'm going to this middle school for all 6 classes, so I can't wait to be there. And I every day it changes for me, and just to see the kids buy in, see the families buy in and enjoy seeing their students become excited about music. It's the greatest thing in the world, man. I wouldn't trade it. I wanted to be a rock star at some point in my life, but I've got some students that are rock stars now, and that's pretty freaking awesome.
That's awesome. Yeah, it's what is it? If you love your job, you never work a day in your life.
Exactly.
Yeah. Was it even even when it gets stressed out around here? I was on the phone with Mulvihill just the other day. He's like, "Hey, we work in the drum business."
Yeah.
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
It's pretty great.
Yeah. Very good. So, what advice depart with? Sort of to our younger audience. Any advice you would give to young percussionists, arrangers coming up? Things that you've learned.
Yeah, sure. This is going to seem odd because it's not percussion related, but in long term, it is percussion related. We all know that we get into concert band situations where the percussionist is in the back of the room, and the band directors are warming up the winds, and they're talking about articulation, and they're playing their scales and their long tones and breathing exercises. And maybe the percussion section has to spend a lot of time just standing there. Maybe you don't have a percussion person that can pull you out of the room, and you're like bored off, you're out of your mind. It happens. It's probably more likely in a lot of situations that's happened. My thing here is, we didn't have a percussion instructor when I was in high school that came in during the day. It was only for drumline. So I had, James Griffith, who was, he's just a phenomenal band director with lots of knowledge. I would sit there and listen to him. How was he tuning those notes? And how was he getting them to articulate certain rhythms? And why was he asking them to do this or them to do that? And then I was trying to figure out, well, does that affect my part? And how does that work? So I'm thinking holistically about the ensemble when I'm not even being worked with or having any attention paid to me. So that's a big deal. You can learn a lot from your band directors by just paying attention in the back of the room. That's number one. Number two is don't be afraid to try things. You never know what little bit of information can lead to a gig for you. One example, like I said, I taught in Japan for 7 years. So where the drum corps practiced, the next level down, there was a taiko group, and they practiced at the same time. So on the water breaks, I would go down and watch them, and it was just unbelievable how physical they were, and technique and the way that they turned their bodies and all that stuff. And so I would watch them, and it eventually got to the point where they knew who I was, and I was teaching the group upstairs, and so they would show me stuff once in a while, like, hey, come try this. And I would get to learn a little bit of the technique about what they were doing. And so then fast forward like 8 years later, Mike Lynch over at Lassiter is doing a marching band show that has taiko drums in it, and he puts out a thing, hey, does anybody know how to teach taiko drums? And I'm like, well, I learned some of it, so that led to me coming in and getting to help their students get a better understanding of how to create quality sounds out of their drums that they had in the show. So, try everything, keep your ear open, and don't be afraid to get involved, because if you're just a snare drummer, then that really narrows your field down. So try to know what you can about as much as you can, because that's going to make you employable.
That is about every guest that I've had is talking about being a diversified percussionist. So
Yeah.
that seems to be an ongoing theme. It's not just popular with Chris. It's
I'm sure that outside of myself, that those same people probably had had to figure out how to get to where they could live off of being a musician and teaching and helping and creating. And there's no shortcut. I mean, it's do the work, reap the rewards, right?
Right, exactly. So as we start to wrap up, I like to leave these on a fun note. Now, your family is drum corps through and through, obviously, with
Yeah.
your wife. Um, One, what are you guys gonna do in this summer where you have all this extra time? And two, if y'all didn't do this, what do you think that you guys would spend if you had as much the passion for something else? What would you match that with?
Well, let's start with if we didn't have this, what would we be doing? Number one, I met my wife at DCI Finals in Orlando in a parking lot. She was hanging out with the guard staff from the Blue Coats. She was aging out, and one of my friends was on the drum staff at Blue Coats, and I was on tour that summer with the Rochester Patriots, and I was looking for my friend, and I happened to have on a dance studio hat for where my wife was actually studying dance because our dance instructor taught at Patriots was her dance instructor. So number one, my family exists because of drum corps. If it weren't for that moment in the DCI Finals parking lot, my family might not be here doing what we're doing and being able to answer this question. Well, my daughter now, she's been she's an incredible gymnast. She spent 11 years competing at the highest level. She made it. She was in level 8, working on level 9 skills up until all happened. Her team was undefeated for 5 years across the country, number 1 ranked group of gymnastics for their level. But she's also been a percussionist, which is kind of crazy. I don't know. I mean, it's not like she doesn't have anything to play on, you know? So it's like she's a percussionist. She was the first chair honor band Cobb County mallet player out of 72 people that auditioned this past year as an 8th grader. And my son plays all sports. So he's on a travel ball team. He's 9, and that takes up a lot of our time. But yeah, right now, to be honest with you, I'm learning what it's like to be a parent who's upstairs like my parents were when there's lots of drum noises, because my 2 kids have spent hours down here on my drum sets in the basement making all kinds of noise, and they're making videos and stuff, working on grooves. So it's awesome. That's how we're spending our time. My daughter drums like 90 minutes to 3 hours a day, depending. And we've got drum pads and sticks like situated in every room, so I can always tell where she's at.
So she takes that same work ethic that comes with gymnasts and also has more. I assume that she doesn't get the gymnastics gene from you, as you're the one that tried to stay upside down. And
no, I mean, I'm pretty flexible, you know. I've got moves. There's a video out there with recently of some of those moves. So, you know, I don't know. She might a little bit from me. Probably more so from her color guard mom, but yeah. You know, the gymnastics thing, you know, has been great for her. It set her work ethic up. Hey, drumming comes easy when you're used to flying through the air, doing flips and all kinds of crazy stuff. Now you're just worried about putting that stick in the right spot. You know, it's like it's a little bit easier. So yeah, that's what my family's up to. We're hanging, we're drumming. Baseball actually started back up this last week, so there's like a social distancing thing where they're spread out on the field, and but he has a batting cage I've built in the backyard, so him and I spend time back there, and we tend to go fishing once in a while, and that's what we're doing. But you know, now that the fall is starting to, people are making decisions. I'm writing some more shows. Right. You know, still working on the design for Hillgrove and getting that happening, and. It turns out, man, I've been sitting at home for 8 weeks. I was lost for 2 because I was like, what is happening? And now I'm just as busy as I've ever been, if not busier, because I've just started a photography company. I'm doing the drum thing and trying to be the best dad I can be at the same time. So, yeah, man, I'm keeping busy. So is the fam.
That's awesome. Well, man, we're just thanks for stopping by and giving us a ton to work with. You do such a great job with all those percussionists down there, and really with Atlanta CV. Thank you for taking our drums and making them sound so great and giving us yet another ensemble that is performing at such a high level on Mapex drums. We really do appreciate it.
Yeah, well, I can't, I can't thank you guys enough. Between you and Jeff and Chris, like, it's such a family atmosphere over there. You made us feel welcome from day one. I think we all share the same vision educationally and the way that we want to, support our students. And I think it's just a great fit with us and Mapex. And we can't thank you guys enough for letting us be on your team and, putting those drums out there, making good sound.
Well,
Thank you.
it's just easy to care for great people. So we really appreciate it. We appreciate you stopping in for another Focus Friday. Be safe out there. Get to practicing. A lot of great things that are coming out on the Mapex marching side of things. We still have Dave Natal's Playing at Home with Dave Natal. Episode 2 of the BIOS Tricks of the Trade came out. You're really going to want to learn all those tricks, Chris, as well.
Well, it's funny you say this about Dave Natal. I'm going to end, if I can, with this last story. So Dave was a student of mine at Edwanda High School. So he was in my drum line at Edwanda. And then I moved away to Georgia, and I hadn't heard from Dave in a while, and I was out judging DCI. At the time, apparently, he had made the Blue Devils, and I didn't know that. I'm out on the field, so I guess if you say, has anybody ever tried to hit me, this might be the closest. I know Dave didn't do this on purpose. I just happened to be in the zone. So I'm following the snares, and I didn't know Dave was in the snare line, and I hear like the quad coming up from this side, so I give the shoulder look. At that time, there wasn't a whole lot of video out, but I knew I could be there. I'd seen the show once before, so I'm out there, and as I go to look over my shoulder, everything breaks into a scatter drill, and jack to dome, and it stops. And I'm literally like elbow to elbow with the snare drummer. And I look over, and the snare drummer looks at me, and he tilts his head back. He goes, "What's up, Romo?" I'm like, "Dave, I didn't know you were marching." So, yeah, maybe that's the closest I've ever been to being hit, and it was from Dave Natal. Dave, it was good. Yeah, it was good to see him. And it's good to see him doing great things out there, too, and part of the Mapex family.
He's a gem, man. The way he's breaking down some of these things, the flam thing this week. When it started off, I was like, oh, I don't know. But he breaks it down so well. So everybody learned those tricks of the trade, all that things, all those great things. All right, we're going to try to just compile as much content as we can here in the absence of the great WGI, DCI, DCA seasons. Just trying to just keep our hands going. We're going to have a great 2021. Everybody, thank you for joining us, and stay safe and get out there and drum.